Hi, Phil.
Hello, Arthur. What this is a game that I recognize and love.
Is it?
Yes.
You're not ambivalent to
No,
Fallout?
I'm the opposite of ambivalent to Fallout. I adore Fallout in general, and Fallout 3 in particular. So, as you might imagine, Arthur, very excited about the announcement of Fallout 4, which we are going to be seeing in a couple of weeks at E3.
Yeah.
Prior to us going to see this and discovering more about what Fallout 4 is, we thought we would do a little video here, not only going back to Fallout 3 just to take a look, see how it's going here in the old wasteland, but also to discuss what it is that we would like to see in Fallout 4. I would have to imagine there are a lot of people on staff who like the Fallout series, but I think of everyone on staff, you and I have probably played the most of Fallout 3. Like, we've sunk a lot of time into this world.
Yeah, I think that would be a safe bet. I mean, say I probably played about 200 hours into
yeah.
Fallout 3. Yeah,
I've probably put a good 100. You are even further along than I am. So I guess that said, why don't you start? What is it that you want to see? What's the #1 request immediately that you have for Fallout 4?
Not a single gendered predetermined protagonist.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that's interesting. They released that trailer, and one of the things coming out of the trailer is it ends with the protagonist speaking, which is
right, and it sounds like Troy Baker speaking to me.
It sounds a lot like Troy Baker, or a Troy Baker-esque voice, and that's led a lot of people to suggest that they think the main character of Fallout 4 may be a predetermined character, and on top of that, maybe a predetermined and male-only character. I will say, I think that's nonsense. I don't think it's going to be that way, and I do think that if they did that, it would be a huge mistake. I
agree with that sentiment. I don't know. Stranger things have happened in video game land, Phil.
Absolutely. It's just it's so much the opposite of what Bethesda does and what they've done in all their games, that it would be like a shocking and completely misled change of pace for them.
I feel like it really would be like sort of missing what I've always assumed was like the thing about Bethesda games, and I was talking about this a little bit in our group chat in our Slack earlier today, that I feel like in games like Mass Effect, even, like, you're Shepard, right? Like, that is a character who you can make choices for, but like it's sort of like a specific character. Whereas Fallout, like, it is that blank slate, like more so than I think any game I've ever played, other than like Skyrim or Oblivion. I wouldn't understand the reasoning. Yeah, I feel like it's really missing the boat if that's the route they go. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why they would do that, other than like some kind of misguided desire to make Bethesda the story company, you know?
Sure. One thing that I will say is, even if they go with a specific protagonist where it's an actual protagonist who speaks, which in and of itself would be surprising, I fully expect them to go the sort of BioWare Mass Effect / Dragon Age route of making it so that that character can still be male or female, and that character can look multiple ways. That would be my suspicion and hope, certainly.
Yeah, I just worry, you know, like, which is stupid, because it's not my game. Like, you know, it's Bethesda's game, but I do, like, it's weird. I do feel not a sense of ownership, but like just a desire for Fallout to be better than I think it would be if they went with a just dude protagonist, you know? Like, and maybe that's just being unreasonable. Maybe I'm being unreasonable.
No, I mean, I'm with you. That's definitely... And hey, also, that's what this video is for. Being unreasonable, our unreasonable requests. And I have another unreasonable request right now. One that I absolutely know already is not happening. or sort of know is not happening, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. Setting, I was really hoping to have Fallout 4 move away from the East Coast.
Really? Why is that?
I just, like, I was fine with Fallout 3 being on the East Coast, but I wanted to see other parts of the U.S., and in particular, like, I would love to see something in the middle somewhere. That giant piece of land in the middle of the U.S. that nobody ever talks about that's there. We've seen a lot of West Coast throughout the Fallout history, but now we've seen a bit of the East Coast as well in Fallout 3. All signs point to Fallout 4 being set in the Boston area.
Yeah, I mean, like, literally all signs in that, like, Fenway Park in the Boston State House are in the new trailer.
That said, we don't know the scope of it yet. We don't know, like, maybe there will be other locations. It certainly seems like they're playing around with time to some degree. Like, it looks like in the trailer there might be some flashback stuff going on. And if that is the case, perhaps there is also some moving around in physical space as well.
Maybe. I sort of get where you're coming from, I think. But the thing for me is that, like, such an important part of Fallout or Fallout 3 in particular, was the exploration of a familiar sort of space to us as, like, Americans. Like, there's a real sense of loss and weirdness and apocalypse in Fallout. I think a lot of that has to do with exploring the ruins of something that's recognizable.
See, but I see, that's the thing that I disagree. I disagree with the idea that, like, Boston is recognizable, but somewhere in the middle of the U.S. is not.
I think the thing about Boston, like, less so about Boston, but particularly with DC, is that DC had so many landmarks and such, like, an established visual style.
I agree with that, for sure.
And Boston, I think, as well, has a recognizability to it that, honestly, as much as I liked Fallout New Vegas, and I did like Fallout New Vegas, I think Fallout New Vegas struggled with this in that it wasn't particularly recognizable. And
I would say Vegas is a more recognizable location than Boston. I don't know.
I mean, like, you don't get to Vegas till near the end. I think that yes, Vegas in Fallout New Vegas was recognizable. I think that...
You're right, though, that you didn't go to Vegas until, like...
Yeah.
Man, they put off Vegas for a long time in that game.
Yeah, it really did. And, like, when you weren't in Vegas, like, when you were exploring everything else, it wasn't recognizable, you know? And that... I think that really made it suffer.
But like a Chicago would be recognizable, I think. And
yeah,
also,
I think that Chicago might
I'm just
be
interested. Like, I'm fascinated in the Fallout universe in general, and I would love to know what's going on elsewhere in that world. Not just in the big cities on the coasts, but other parts of the U.S. as well. And heck, I would love to see what's going on in Europe or in Asia or anywhere else as well. Although I don't know that that's within the scope of what the Fallout franchise is really looking to tackle.
I think for me, the exciting sort of key thing about Fallout 4 is that it's picking up where the last one left off with some very particular, like, sort of threads. Mm-hmm. With the Institute being something that was referenced multiple times in Fallout 3, and especially in the Android quest. That it's this sort of ominous organization, and I think that seems like a good jumping off point for a new Fallout. And also, like, we're hoping that the Reddit rumor from a year ago that has gotten some new traction lately is wrong because of some of the things that it says about particularly, like, the protagonist and the story. But I think that one of the sort of thing, the rumors that we heard a long time back and that I hope is true, is that Three Dog will be returning, which is one of my favorite parts of Fallout 4.
Sure.
So one of the rumors from a few years back is that the voice actor who did Three Dog posted that he was recording new Fallout stuff, and everybody freaked out because they're like, oh my god, new Fallout stuff. And Fallout 3 came out 7 years ago. And honestly, the Three Dogs stuff was some of my favorite parts of Fallout 3. Just the way that I felt rooted in that world by this person that was like sort of out there establishing that things were happening, that it would give subtle and not so subtle cues as to like where you could head for a new mission or to sort of find a new place and sort of explore there and deal with things that were happening there. And also it sounded like someone was paying attention to what you were doing.
Yeah,
and the broadcasts would change and reflect. So in addition to the music on the radio station, which was great, there are also like the radio plays, like Daring Dashwood, and that kind of stuff. And I just felt like that was such a big part of establishing that you were in that world.
Yeah. And building on that, and this kind of goes in line with what I had said previously as well, just my general interest in the wider Fallout universe and the wider Fallout lore. I just hope that there is a really good story for Fallout 4. Like, the core plot, the main story quest, that there's some really interesting good things that happen, and that it kind of pushes the Fallout universe forward. Because that's one of the things that, you know, with open world games like this, with Fallout and with the Elder Scrolls series as well, there's always that danger of putting out games where, because it's an open world game and because so much of the focus is on side stuff and just like the world itself and on whatever you can find, there's always that danger of like, well, we don't really need to move the actual universe forward in any way. We don't need to do anything big that... We don't have to have any surprising revelations or, you know, shift the storyline in any sense. I hope that Bethesda doesn't fall into that with Fallout 4. I would love to see it actually move things forward and have us discover new things and have it so that when we finish Fallout 4 and we start talking about where Fallout 5 is going to be, you know, what they're going to do with Fallout 5, that there is a slightly different status quo for them to take on for that.
Right, and I mean, like, the risk is that Fallout has such a passionate sort of following and fan base that there are expectations that I'm sure that there's some discussion of needing to meet, although Fallout 3 was sort of notorious when it came out for how pissed off a lot of really diehard Fallout fans were.
Certainly.
To the point where I recently spent some time reading a forum thread of angry Fallout fans talking about how little they thought Fallout 3 would resonate long term and how much people would care about it, like 2 or 3 or 5 years from release.
Given that's a small, super hardcore base, they're probably still angry.
Yes, I imagine that they are still angry. Although they did get a Fallout New Vegas that I think was closer to what they wanted.
Closer, yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's a juggling act between making sure that something's Fallout and the sort of nature of the Fallout universe, which is that, like, progress is hard in Fallout because everything is broken. I do think it will be interesting to see where the story goes. And also, one of my favorite things about Fallout, like playing it and then sort of following it over the course of the following year, was that there was a lot of really amazing DLC released for Fallout. Like, they kept that game going for a year after it came out. And it just didn't feel like half-assed content. Like, Operation Anchorage was only okay, and a lot of people complained about the pit, but stuff like Point Lookout was fantastic, and Broken Steel was great. And so, I really am curious as to how they plan on supporting the game after it releases, but I guess what I'm curious about is, we're talking about sort of abstract stuff and, like, sort of our responses to what we've seen so far, but I guess, like, what do you hope is in the game at this point?
One thing that's important to discuss if we're talking about things we want to see in Fallout 4, like, definitely let's get into it mechanically as well. You know, one of the criticisms for some people of Fallout 3, not for me so much because I thought it was basically perfect. Let's not say perfect. Maybe that's great. An exaggeration.
Say great.
I thought it was very good. But one of the criticisms that it got was that you know, that the shooting wasn't necessarily super fun. You know, is there anything in terms of the actual mechanics that you'd like to see shift?
I think that The shooting was clunky, like just the moment to moment, like first person actual shooting. But I felt like that was sort of the point, and I hate when people do this when they say, well, that's how it was supposed to be. But VATS was how Fallout was supposed to be played. And, you know, VATS worked fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. And I would actually go so far as to say I would love to see VATS return in Fallout.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of the things going from Fallout to Skyrim that I actually missed, is the absence of like a sort of pseudo turn-based functionality. Like, I thought that really served the RPG element of the game really well. Like,
yeah, for as much as I love Skyrim, I think there is a very solid argument to be made that Bethesda's strength is not in moment-to-moment action. So adding in that RPG element, as you said, that pseudo turn-based style, I think it honestly adds a lot to the game and adds a lot to the strategy, and making it feel like making up for anything that the moment-to-moment action mechanics might lack.
Yeah, just the basic systems and like the skills that you need to pick to augment VATS, I just felt like were really interesting, and like they gave a real sense of character progression, and I would be really bummed, actually, if VATS is gone. Like, part of me doesn't understand how they could even release the game without VATS in it, because that's so important. But stranger things have happened, once again, so we'll see what they do with that. But what else do you think? Like, what is key to your Fallout 3 and arguably the Fallout New Vegas experience that you think is like something that needs to return?
Something that needs to return. For me, the approach to side quests in Fallout 3 and New Vegas was so key to that experience. Part of what made me want to explore the Wastelands so much was the way that you would stumble onto these side quests and, you know, stumble into a community, and you know, it would be connected to everything going on around, but there would be this sort of like story that gets told fully within that side quest. And they were just really fascinating, interesting stories about these weird communities, and, you know, that had sprung up and how people were surviving in the wasteland after the apocalypse.
Right.
That stuff to me is super important, and it's something that, you know, if you look at Elder Scrolls, if you look at Bethesda's other work, the side quests in those games, I think, have a very different tone and a very different style than the side quests in Fallout. So certainly,
Sure.
like, that's something that I hope that they return to and that they can stick with.
One of the things that I particularly enjoyed about Fallout 3 was just that it wasn't just side quests. Like, there were buildings and places you could go that you would never need to go to that felt like they had their own stories to tell. Both sort of passively, like, oh, well, it's the Nuka-Cola building, and look at the people who used to be here, or the different vaults that you would go to, and each of them had like a different sort of experiment being conducted on its citizens. But one of the places in Fallout 3 that really stuck with me was the Dunwall building. I don't know if you ever went to that one.
Yeah.
But it was haunted. Like, it was the haunted house of Fallout 3, and it was interesting to me because so much of Fallout 3 is just science-based. Like, this is science. Like, this is a sci-fi future where shit is really messed up, but it's science, not magic. And then you go into the Dunwall building, and it is Lovecraftian lore infused.
Yeah, I mean, it's called
horror.
Dunwall. It's definitely Lovecraft. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like their willingness to sort of do something weird and unexpected there was really interesting. And I think that they expanded on that a little bit with the Point Lookout DLC, where they have like an extended sort of hallucinatory experience, like, that has some pretty fucked up imagery, including of your dead mother. And then stuff
another thing that I will say, you know, that's key to the Fallout experience for me, that you know, obviously I'm gonna want them bringing back, is I want to be able to pick up everything. Obviously, like, a big part of the idea of like trying to survive in a nuclear wasteland is scavenging, and that's something that I loved about Fallout as well. Of like coming into a location and being like, you know, seeing like a grocery store, and you're like, I'm so stoked to see this grocery store. One, I'm terrified because are there like raiders sitting inside here? Probably. Two, I'm stoked because like, what can I get? Like, can I find some food? Can I find some ammo? Can I find a new weapon? Like, just that idea of like everywhere you go, constantly looking for more stuff. That is such a huge part of Fallout for me.
One of the things that I think is suggested in the Fallout 4 trailer is a home base. Like, I think that gas station that it shows toward the end of the trailer with the half-built power armor and the weapon collection and, like, the comics and all that, I really feel like that suggests that that is your thing, that it is an outpost, and it also suggests to me that the crafting that was just sort of, like, it's kind of half-assed in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas.
Was there crafting in Fallout 3?
Yeah, because you would get weapon schematics.
That's right.
That you would build from junk. And some of those would be really powerful. Like, one of them was like a catapult to throw nuclear weapons. And I would kind of like, if they're gonna do crafting, I would like to see them actually do something interesting with it.
You know, that brings up another potentially interesting idea, and one that I'm cautiously optimistic about the potential of, which is the idea of like maybe having vehicles in Fallout 4. You know, maybe having, you know, whether it's like some sort of car that you're putting together, that armor suit that you mentioned. In the trailer, we also see like the weird like helicarrier things.
The vertibirds, I think they're called.
That's what they're called. Yeah, thank you. Like, I would love to actually be able to take control of these. You know, obviously the cautious part of that comes with adding in vehicle gameplay in a game and a genre that's not necessarily known for it can be really janky sometimes. But I think it could be really cool as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of me like really believes that Fallout, and to a lesser extent, but similarly Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls games, are about like exploring a world on foot. Like, they're about that sort of connection to the environment that you're in. And I think that a vehicle would really screw with that dynamic.
So that's not true. In Skyrim, I rode a horse, and then I got a mod, and I made the horse into my cat.
You made a cat horse?
I rode the cat.
Yeah, I didn't really play around with mods. Although I did, later on, I did like some visual mods for Fallout, like using like a texture pack and stuff like that. That's another thing that I'm kind of curious how they're going to address, at least on the PC version of Fallout, because earlier this year, Bethesda and Valve tried to do a 4-pay mod program, and Skyrim was the pilot program. And back when that stuff all fell apart rapidly after all the outrage, I remember saying that I think that there are going to be times later this year where we really wish that they'd used a game like Skyrim, to figure this shit out. And I think Fallout is going to suffer somewhat from any growing pains that they might have been able to work out on Skyrim with something like that, because I think that Bethesda's MO is to have their stuff be moddable sort of out the gate, and I really would have been interested to see what Fallout 4 looked like with that functionality built in.
So wait, I'm confused. Are you saying that you don't think it'll be moddable?
No, I think it will be moddable. I just think that the sort of environment that they had hoped to create by allowing paid mods on Skyrim is something that if they're going to do with Fallout 4, and honestly, like, paid mod ecosystems are sort of where things are going, and I think that, like, if you look at Epic and what they're doing with Unreal Tournament and what Valve is doing with all of their games, like, there's a strong belief that selling mods is, like, going to be a really important ecosystem for the future of PC games. I think that there will be something like that in Fallout 4. I worry that what it will look like is going to be worse than it would have been if it could have worked out the kinks with Skyrim.
Sure. One thing that I'll throw out, and you know, I don't know how popular or unpopular this opinion will be, but I do hope that Fallout 4 stays next gen. I hope that we've seen right now they've only announced it for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Some people have suggested that they think there could be a 360 and PS3 version. There are still some developers making 360 and PS3 versions of their games. And I respect that, you know, not everyone can afford a PS4 and Xbox One, so I definitely don't want to imply that if you can't afford them, you shouldn't be able to play Fallout or anything ridiculous like that. But I do think it is better
I think it's
for the
time.
game.
Yeah.
I think it's better for the game if they don't have to worry about also trying to make it work on last-gen consoles.
I really want to see what Bethesda can do with new hardware, because so much of Bethesda's like real legacy started with Oblivion on the Xbox 360 and sort of stopped with Skyrim. Like, that was a 5-year period, and we don't really know what their stuff will look like now, as far as like the way that, what the game is and the way it plays, etc., etc. And yeah, I really don't want them to dilute the vision of what they could possibly do by focusing on older hardware. So
yeah, I completely agree with you.
So no offense to the people who don't have the new systems or like a middling PC, but I don't think it would be in the game's best interest to do that.
Yeah, I still love you. I still think everyone deserves to play Fallout. However,
is there anything that you didn't really like in the Fallout games that you hope that they fix?
well, one thing, and you know, judging by the trailer, it looks like that they're pushing in the right direction here. Is Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas to a slightly lesser extent, but I think still had this issue. They were not very colorful games, or to be more accurate, they were kind of like one color each. And it seems like with Fallout 4, they are pushing for much more varied and much more colorful environments, and that's absolutely something that I would love to see more of.
I do wonder if that's part of the post-apocalypse aesthetic.
Certainly.
That the game's identity is so tied to that it needs to be sort of like saturated toward a specific color or something like that.
Certainly. However, you know, you can see in the trailer that they're finding ways to. It looks like there are specific areas that are still going to be that like kind of just one, you know, brownish, orangish color. But then there are other areas where it's looking much more colorful, or where it's looking like there's more plant life, there's more signs, there's more lights, different things to like add some flavor to it. Whereas with Fallout 3, I kind of always felt like no matter what section of the game I was in, no matter what area, it was always that color.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that it would. I want to know what it looks like, there are a lot of people that were really crapping on the way the game looked on social media yesterday, and I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Sort of based on, like, I just feel like people forgot what Skyrim looked like, what Fallout looked like, what Oblivion looked like. There was definitely an evolution there, but I think if someone is, like, this game is not going to look like The Witcher, because it is not a game like The Witcher. Nobody makes games like Bethesda does. Like, Bethesda makes a very particular kind of open world game that I think is as much about discovery and sort of establishing an identity in a world as it is like overcoming challenges or moving a story forward. Like, it's as much about like cultural anthropology of a space that seems familiar as it is what a lot of other open world games focus on, and so that's what's important to me. But
I hope in this one that you can shoot people and then their heads explode when you shoot them.
I'm sure that it will be graphically violent, and part of me hopes that it's still goofy and not really viscerally like.
Well, there's a weird, you know, you watch that trailer and there's a kind of almost somber tone to it, because it's showing like the actual bombs falling and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something that's important as well to Fallout. Is Fallout's always been, you know, it's been in this kind of dark setting where America's been ravaged by nuclear weapons, but it doesn't take itself that seriously. It's always had a little bit of goofiness to it. So
right.
Along with what I'd said previously about, you know, I hope they have a good story and move the universe forward and stuff, but I also still hope that they maintain that tongue-in-cheek thing that Fallout does so well.
I mean, it's sort of impossible to avoid, because the basic premise of Fallout is that it's this 50s and 60s view of the space-going future that failed,
Yeah.
like that was destroyed by nuclear war. And so that is a ridiculous premise. That setup is insane. And it's always been they've been really good about that. So yeah, I but while maintaining that somberness, like Fallout 3 is a really creepy, kind of sad game in spots. Just like they don't really sugarcoat the fact that look at all these people that died.
Yeah.
Like look at what's left of the civilization that's just gone. Like these people died in their beds holding each other. Like there are a lot of scenes like that, or like empty baby cribs, or like just homes where people like died together. I think that there's some really intensely emotional scenes that you just stumble on, and I think that they juggled that really well in Fallout 3, and I really hope that they managed to do the same thing in Fallout 4.
Absolutely. So I think, to wrap things up, I think what we can say is, with certainty, for Fallout 4, we would like it to be everything that Fallout 3 was, and also something totally new and different and better. So Bethesda, don't let us down, or we're probably going to give you, like 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair statement. Yeah.
All I could say, I'm stoked to get to E3 and to check out Fallout 4, and very excited to finally check it out and find out more.
You think we get it this year, Phil?
I think we are going to get it this year. I think if you look back at the way that that Bethesda announces their games, they almost always announce, the year it's coming out or the very end of the year before it's coming out.
Right.
So I think it's very likely that we'll get it this year.
Yeah, I agree. I desperately hope that we're right. I'm going to be sad if we're not.
That would be so awesome. Fallout, it's coming. We're excited. Definitely stay tuned to Polygon.com. We will have lots more Fallout coverage very soon as we hopefully play it for ourselves and find out more at E3.